Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our monthly Funded Fast Chats. I'm Rochelle Thomas, Energy Manager with the San Joaquin Valley Clean Energy Organization, and this is our 14th Fast Chat. So please continue to look out for us every second Tuesday of the month as we bring you valuable financing and project information. This month, we would like to highlight the CEC, or California Energy Commission Low-Interest Loan. This is not by any means a new financing product, but it's been around for some time. But in some of my conversations with partners, I kind of get the impression that there may not be a clear understanding of the potential benefits. So we want to take this opportunity to lay out all the facts so you can make an informed decision. So really quickly, a little bit of housekeeping here. Please note that your microphones have all been muted upon joining the call. If you have any questions at all, please go ahead and submit them using your chat box. You can do that at any time during the presentation. We designate some time at the end of the call to address any questions you might have. If for any reason we're not able to get to your question, please look out for our follow-up email shortly after the call. In that email, we will address any unanswered questions maybe we didn't get to. We'll provide you with a link to the recording of this presentation, as well as any resources we discussed during the call. So with that out of the way, let's jump right in. So here we have the basic structural details of the California Energy Commission Low-Interest Loans. They're made possible by the Energy Conservation Assistance Act. They offer 1% fixed interest rates over the life of the loan, so there are no surprises there. You can obtain a loan for as long as 20 years, or the useful life of the equipment, whichever is smaller. The maximum amount you can borrow is $3 million, and there is no minimum loan amount. So who qualifies? Local governments and special districts qualify. Public colleges and universities also qualify. I have a little subnote there that K through 12 schools also qualify, but they qualify for 0% financing. So be on the lookout of any of your school districts that might be looking for funding. I know Prop 39 is kind of winding down, so there might be some opportunities coming up here in the near future. Last but not least, public care institutions like maybe mental health and public hospitals also qualify for these loans. So the next most natural question I'm sure you're asking is, why would someone pay 1% interest when they can get 0% financing through the on-bill financing program with their utility? The simple answer to that question is waiting costs money. So on-bill financing is an amazing tool. We strongly advocate for our partners to take full advantage of this as a resource. However, there's always a but, right? On-bill financing can sometimes take a long time. So projects can get hung up in the approval process. For example, if a lighting project has to be verified through the modified lighting calculator, or you might know it as the MLC, in credit screening, I personally have seen OBF application approval take as long as 6 months. So the time that you're waiting to implement the project costs money, because those are dollars that you're not saving during that time. So let's see, I would highly encourage projects with relatively short payback periods or high annual yields really shouldn't be delayed. I'm going to get into a little deeper as to why. So let's just take a hypothetical project here. So let's say you're replacing a group of HVAC units. They're getting close to the end of their useful life anyway, and you're upgrading to more efficient units. So this is a very common energy efficiency scenario. Let's just say these should all be, kinds of numbers that you're used to looking at, those of you that actively do projects. Let's say hypothetically, the total cost of the project is $175,000, and you receive $75,000 in utility incentives. That would make the total amount you would have to finance as $100,000. So we've calculated that this particular HVAC project is going to save you $20,000 in energy savings each year. And therefore, this project has roughly about a 5-year payback period. With an on-bill financing loan, they would estimate your savings amount to determine, they would use your estimated savings amount to determine your monthly payment for the loan. So as you can see on your screen, I have taken the $20,000 you are projected to save each year and divided it by 12 months in the year, and I get $1,667. So each month, your organization would be responsible to pay $1,667 each month to repay the loan, in addition to your regular, hopefully now significantly reduced energy bill. So that's pretty standard. Now let's take these same numbers and plug it into the CEC Low-Interest Loan model. So basically, I took the numbers and I plugged them into a loan amortization table. Microsoft Excel has pre-programmed and ready-to-use templates already is part of their Excel. So you can kind of play around with it. I have fun with playing around and seeing different financing options. So we'll provide you with that resource following the call. So okay, so we have our loan amount here of $100,000 at 1%. Your loan term is equal to your simple payback, the same with OPF, but here's where things get a little bit different. So there's our 5-year payback on the screen. With the CEC Low-Interest Loan, you're responsible to make your payments semi-annually or every 6 months. Therefore, each year you would make 2 payments of $10,000. If we think back to our OBF scenario on the last slide, this comes out to exactly the same amount of money. So just a really small tip, the accountant in me is talking. If this payment structure is an issue for your organization, I would suggest setting up an account to set aside the $1,667 each month. So when the payment comes due, those funds are available. This way, there's very little disruption in your monthly expenditures. Okay, moving along. My handy amortization table provided me with some additional information. So here we have, over the life of the loan, the total interest you would pay is $2,834, which means your effective interest rate is 2.83, so just below 3%. For anyone in the audience that might not be familiar with the difference between the stated and the effective interest rate, I'll give you a really quick 3-second crash course here. Each month, your lender multiplies your balance by the stated interest rate, and that's what determines your payment. Essentially, the stated interest rate is what lenders use for advertising. However, if you add up all of the interest payments you make over the life of the loan and then divide them by the amount of funds you initially borrowed, you'll come up with a percentage that's somewhat higher than that stated interest rate. So why am I going through all these details with a fine-tooth comb? Because delayed savings is equivalent to literally throwing money away. When we're faced with delaying energy efficiency projects because approval on financing takes such a long time, we need to start looking at if the interest you are saving with one financing vehicle justifies the loss in energy savings. So in this particular example, the answer is no. The $2,834 in interest over 5 years is still a fraction of the amount of savings you would see in 1 year if you implement the project. So what's the trade-off? If we think back to our OBF scenario, the most interest you would ever pay in a 6-month period with our CEC loan is $500. The first payment you make on any loan carries the most interest. However, in that same 6-month period of time, you're missing out on $10,000 in interest or $10,000 in energy savings by delaying the project. So the savings in this case far outweighs the interest with the CEC loan. Now, obviously, every example is not going to be this cut and dry, but it's always a good policy to evaluate all of your options. So now that we're done with all the numbers crunching, let's talk about what are some of the projects you can fund using the CEC low interest loan. You can, lighting and HVAC, those are some of the most common things. Street lights and traffic lights also qualify. One example here, I had a situation fairly recently where one of our partners wanted to do a street light project. However, since the utility owns the poles, that partner was unable to use OBF as a financing vehicle for their project. So I don't know if some people on the call may or may not be aware. The CPUC actually considers it a conflict of interest for utilities to finance projects on equipment that they own. So that would be a good opportunity for the CEC low interest loan. Also on the list, we have EMS or energy management systems and controls. If you're going in the direction of automation or creating smart buildings, if you will, pumps and motors, those are also really big ones that qualify. Energy generation and water treatment. Also, load shifting technology. This is actually one of my favorite technologies. Load shifting can be energy storage or ice storage cooling systems in places like the Central Valley, where we have a very heavy cooling load in the summer months. Ice storage allows for energy to be used to create ice overnight when the energy is the cheapest, and then the ice can be used to cool the building during the day. So that's pretty awesome as well. So we've talked about all of the benefits, but is it all good? Well, there are lots of benefits to doing the CEC loan, but the short answer to that question is it depends. There are some additional admin requirements for the CEC low interest loans. For example, there is quarterly reporting that is required. I actually checked in with the CEC on this one because I couldn't find any examples of the kind of reporting that they require online. They told me that it's basically just to check in. They want to make sure that the project is progressing, number one, and number two, they want to make sure that there's no significant changes in the scope of work. So they just want to make sure you're on track. So that's not a heavy burden. The borrower's accounting department has to create a separate account in their books to track all of the activity for this loan. Another one is that financing is on a reimbursement basis. So I realize that might actually be a deal breaker for a lot of our partners because it does require some liquidity up front. And then 10% is withheld until the project is verified complete. The last big one I noticed was that the records, all of the records pertaining to the project, have to be retained for a period of 3 years after the loan has been paid in full. So there is some additional admin that goes along with this type of loan. So you kind of have to balance, what works best for your organization. Lastly, there's a few additional benefits. There are no penalties for early repayment. So, hypothetically, if you received, some grant funding or an influx of capital, you could pay all of the loan off and there wouldn't be any negative repercussions. So that's always a good thing. You have a 30-day grace period, essentially. So if you do make it to that 31st day, also, any late fees that would be assessed are fairly minimal. So we're looking at, 5% of that payment as a penalty or $5, whichever is greater. Okay, so those are all the big things with the CEC low interest loan and reasons why. you know, if OBF really shouldn't, even though we highly advocate for OBF, it shouldn't be the only option all the time. So I'll give a couple of seconds. I'm going to check my chat box to see if there are any questions. Go ahead and take a moment and submit any questions you might have or anything like that. I don't see anything coming through. So I'll go ahead and move along and close this out. I think I'm right at time. I want to thank everybody again for joining us this morning. Please look out for our follow-up email later on today. That email will include a link to the recording of this morning's chat, along with other resources we discussed this morning, like the Microsoft Excel resource. We'll make that available to you. I also encourage everyone listening, please share the Fast Chat with anyone you think might benefit from this information. As always, you can find us on social media, through email, or on our website. Our main purpose is to connect you with resources that will help you get your projects done. And if you would like to listen to any of our past Fast Chats, you can find them at sjvcleanenergy.org. Again, that's sjvcleanenergy.org under the resources heading. So thank you again, everyone, and I hope you have a wonderful week.